Hi, I'm JJ Gluckman, and this is the Norman Standard. Today, I'm here with Ardyth Neill, president of the Heifer Foundation, and today we're going to talk a bit about their work. So to start, what is Heifer International?
Okay. Thank you, JJ, for having me today. And Heifer International is an international development organization. We work in 20 countries around the globe, including the U.S., and we're working to end hunger and poverty. And we do that by working with smallholder farmers in these countries. And it's more than just working with them to make sure they have an income for today, but it's that long term. So we're also looking at the market value chain of the various products that they produce on their farms to make sure there's a market for them so that they can achieve that long-term economic survival.
And how do you make sure that that long-term program works?
So we start with a values-based holistic development model that we've been using for 75 years. So it's evolved over time, and it brings the community together so that they learn how to cooperate with each other, so that they can come up with a shared set of values that they work from. We also train them in animal production, as well as how to increase to have better crops, especially if they're cocoa or coffee farmers. And from there, we then interject an animal, and it depends on the country and what's best for that market value chain for them. In East Africa, it's dairy. In Mexico, it could be chickens. In Nepal, it's goats. And we're helping them to really have the best production of those animals as possible so they can get the best value for them when they sell them in the market.
So very interesting. I do want to get back to some of the regional differences later, but first, where would you say you're most active?
Africa is our biggest area that we're working in.
Any specific part of Africa?
It's primarily East Africa, but we do have other areas that we're working in too. We work in Senegal as well.
So you mentioned earlier that you differentiated the animals, and you said specifically East Africa was dairy. Are there any other major regional differences?
Not necessarily. It's more about what's the actual products that will sell in those countries and bring them the best value.
And how long have you been with the company?
I've been with Heifer for over 22 years. And
based on that, you have a lot of experience. What have been some of the major changes you've seen?
So the major changes have really come into looking at this whole market value chain. We've always worked with the farmers to help them increase their production, but we've added to that to really look at what production is important for those communities to have that long-term, deep economic growth to support the farmers and the communities there. We're also now looking at how do we also work to get capital, because we found that as the farmers' production increases and they start forming agribusinesses and cooperatives, they still need capital to really be able to expand and to get to a living income. And so those are the newest things that we're doing to help really elevate the work with the farmers.
So you're working on the market ed now?
Yes.
Random grab that question. What has been your single best day at Heifer?
There have been a lot of best days in 22 years. So I would say the most recent, I was able to go to Honduras in August and actually visit with some of our farmers, and was there for what we call a passing on the gift. So each of these farmers, once they receive an animal, that first offspring has to be passed to someone else. So I was there for one of the passing on the gift ceremonies. And this particular one was 5 different cooperatives coming together for that pass on. And I had an opportunity to talk to 2 different farmers. And the first one, he was wanting to tell me how important Heifer's work was to his family and his community because of the work and the economic development going on. All the children, both the girls and the boys, are going to school, which they had not been able to do previously. And they've been able to have enough economic development within the farm that the family can stay on the farm and produce enough to have living income so that they don't have to leave the farm. They don't have to go to a bigger town. They don't have to leave their country to find work. And so they find that very important to be able to keep that family together. And then another gentleman came up to me after the passing on the gift ceremony, and his cooperative is relatively new, and he was talking about how important the cooperative has been for them to organize, to be able to see what the market looks like, to be able to market their product, their coffee, in a much better way and get a much better price. And so he was very appreciative of the efforts. But in both of those instances, we're just giving them the catalyst. They're the ones doing the hard work. Farming is hard work. And so they're doing what they do as farmers to really lift themselves.
So not only did you actually get to see the empowerment there, but you mentioned passing on the gift ceremonies, and to me that's one of my favorite parts about Heifer, is what the passing on the gift represents. I actually had the opportunity to see one in Vietnam one time.
Oh, wonderful.
At the in Sok Trung.
Mm-hmm.
I actually saw it when they went to that village.
Great.
Yeah, that was probably one of the better moments of my life.
It is. That's what makes it a best day.
Was that the first one you've been to?
No. That's probably about my 12th, at least. I'm in my 20 plus years. So, yeah.
Yeah. And have you actually been to all 6 continents at this point because of Heifer?
Yes, I have.
What was the last one you visited?
Well, not all 6. I've been to Europe, I've been to Asia, I've been to Africa, South America, North America, because we do work here in the U.S. as well.
What do you do in the U.S.?
We are actually working, Heifer International has a ranch outside of Little Rock, Arkansas. That's a 1,400 acre facility, I believe, and it's a part of our Heifer USA program. And so we have an apprenticeship program there where we're working with new farmers as well as seasoned farmers that want to learn new skills and want to learn how to raise more naturally raised animals as well as produce natural and organic produce production. So we're doing that training there. And with that training, that's also helping feed into the 2 cooperatives we're working with in the U.S. One is called Grassroots, and that is a pasture-based meat production cooperative. So they have cows, they have chickens, and pigs. And then there's also New South, which is the produce production.
Where are these cooperatives in the U.S.?
They're in Arkansas.
They're both in Arkansas.
They're both in Arkansas.
So is that your only location in the U.S.?
Currently, yes. Historically, we've worked in a lot larger footprint in the U.S., but we really shrunk it in to really look at what we could do to make it more impactful and scalable for the future so that we could put together a program that would be either something we could replicate or others could replicate across the country.
Speaking of that kind of expansion and replication, Heifer was in the news recently for a new aquaponics project. Would you mind talking a bit about what that is?
Yes, that's really an exciting new piece, and it's something that we're doing in conjunction with an organization called Hatphonics. And what the HAT stands for, that HAT, is hydroponics, aquaponics, and terraphonics. So it's bringing those 3 together all under one facility. And it's got what looks like a railroad box that you'd see on the trains going by all the time. It's one of those. And then outside of that is a greenhouse. And it's run on sun. So it's got solar panels and wind panels so that it has 0 carbon footprint. It has 12 tanks where you can grow, 13 tanks for different fish production. And the water from the fish goes through the aquaponics to grow various forms of lettuce and strawberries.
So it's a multi-use fish tank.
That's correct.
Multi-use fish tanks, and how are you planning to export them?
Well, right now it's still a prototype, so it's something that we're trying to see how well it works, and can we really use it with our farmers. We had a recent global leadership summit, and the country directors from these 20 different countries were all there and got to go out and visit it, look at it, see how it works, and start thinking about, would it be something, if we can prove the efficiency of it and the cost of it is within a risk tolerance that would be used for the farmers, how would they use it? And what's really interesting is that it all folds up into that carrier box, that tank, boxcar type setup. And those can be put on boxcars and moved. They can go on planes and be dropped. So there's lots of different options that they're looking at, the company's looking at, and we're really testing it to make sure it's viable.
So you're seriously considering just dropping it from a plane in the middle of Tanzania?
That's what I was told when I was asking questions about it last week, but we'll see what it really comes to fruition. Yeah.
Seems like kind of a risky strategy.
I would wonder, but...
Would be fun to see, though. Yeah. We talked earlier about adapting it to different parts of the world, adapting heifer's program to different parts of the world.
Right.
And regarding that, you said that there weren't too many differences between individual locations.
Not really. I mean, there's the cultural pieces, but what we do to work with that is we work very hard to hire staff that are from those local countries, that are educated and have the knowledge to be able to work with the communities from the technical space. But since they're also from the country, they also know the cultures and they know a lot of the things that are endemic to those countries to help really make a difference, so that we can keep it prone to that instead of us coming in and saying what's best. So that's something that helps us not to have to adopt the model too much. The real differences then come into what animal species, what crop production is really best for those communities in those areas.
Yeah. Speaking of people, what percentage of the people that you hire are from the country that they're working in?
Very high percentage. I don't know the percentages off the top of my head, but I do know in the 20 countries that we work, I would say at least 90% in each country are locals.
I've had the opportunity to meet a few of them. We'll show that interview I managed to get with one of them at the end of this piece.
Oh, excellent.
It was Rosemary. She's from Tanzania Project.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
I actually met her at the recent heifer event, which we'll also show footage from.
Yeah.
When I was in Vietnam, I ran into some communist government officials who were on site and supervising the project. How much government cooperation do you have to have in countries like Vietnam as opposed to countries like Tanzania?
We try to get as much cooperation no matter what country we're in, because truthfully the governments have resources that they can also deploy, and if we can tap into those, we want to tap into those because we want to leverage the dollars we're bringing in with other dollars to make a difference. And we find that we have a lot better results when everybody's on board for the changes that we're working towards. And we've been fortunate to have very good relationships with the countries overall.
So you said they provide funding, but is there anything specific that certain countries' governments have provided more than others?
I think it's more country specific and depending on the projects that are going on. I know in Nepal, in those communities, there's a lot of village funds that are available that most of our groups did not know how to tap into, but once they came together in community and started learning about them, they were able to tap into them. So the women in Nepal, in 2 different villages I visited, have been able to tap into those funds to build schools and to get teachers to fulfill those roles within those schools so that their children have good education in a local environment.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up women, actually. That's another thing that I love about heifer is the women's empowerment programs in various countries around the world.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little about that?
Sure. A lot of our work is with women because over 50% of your smallholder farmers are women-based for various reasons in the various countries. So it's wonderful to see them come together in community because they go through that holistic values-based training on the beginning, and in a lot of instances they haven't had an opportunity to come together like we do here to be able to form a group and to have that support. And one of my favorite stories is from Nepal, one of my first trips, and talking to the women, and they talked about how before heifer came in and before they came together as a group, they were like a stick that was easily broken. But now, because they're a group, it's a bundle, and it's much harder to break a bundle. So it helps them to really have more say in their community, have more say in their home. It also gives them an income source so that they also have more say in how the funds are used within their home.
Have you personally seen the stick become a bundle?
Yes. I've seen it in Nepal. I've seen it in Tanzania. I've seen it in Malawi and Mexico, and in most of the communities that we work. It's really, that's who we meet with a lot of the times, are the women, and they come together and really talk about how important it is for them to have the opportunities to work together. In Malawi, we sat through one of their village savings and loans meetings. It's a group of women, and they set how much money they put aside every month into their loan program. They collect the funds, and then each woman has to tell what they want to borrow the funds for, what the business is going to be, how they expect to have the money, and how they're going to pay it back. They set the interest rate that they're going to charge within the community as well, so that they build those funds in community, but they have their own savings passbooks just like we would have, only they're sitting under a tree with 3 different women working through the checks and balances of it. I have more of a finance background than anything else, and it would make any CPA happy to see the controls, internal controls that they have in place to protect their funds and to ensure that everyone's being treated equally.
That's amazing, really amazing. And if people wanted to get involved in supporting Heifer's work, how would they go about donating?
So they can go to heifer.org on the web, and there are donate buttons, and there's opportunities there to support the work in general. You can buy animals in support, in honor of different individuals, and give them an animal that then will be used to support the work around the globe. And there's many options there. That's one of the easiest ways to do it.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I'm just excited to be here, JJ, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share more about Heifer.
Thanks for coming. Well, we'll now go live, or not really live, we'll go back to when I went to the recent Heifer event, and we'll see you there. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gluckman. I'm here at the NBC Universal Studios lot, and today we're covering the Heifer International Annual Fundraising Event. Let's see what's going on.
My name is Rose Marandu, the Deputy Country Director for Heifer International Tanzania. I am here in LA to support the event, sharing about our work in Heifer Tanzania. Heifer does beyond animals. We do women empowerment, we do youth employability work, we do sustainable agriculture development through sustainable agriculture production. We do a lot of things also with families, that the income that they get from milk that they from the animals that we pass on to the families goes into household consumption, and the rest goes into the market. From the market, they're able to get income to pay for education, and the milk to pay education and the health for their children.